Well, Mick, the season's starting to wind down. Is there a sort of... what's the feeling that you have at the moment with the last two games? Obviously, it's a feeling of wanting to play them out, but is it a null sort of feeling?
Well, it's strange, I can say that. It's been a long time since haven't been featured in finals. I think... I know it's too early to totally reflect, but where we started the season and where we are at the moment, I can't answer for the next two games. We've been hit rather hard with injuries, and that's part of the game, but it has left us pretty shy in numbers. But when I reflect from now going back to the start of the season to what we are, we have improved in areas that are massively important for us to go forward. One is in leadership. I think Mark and his team have just developed on a weekly basis. I've seen it happen. It's almost like it's so tangible, and in particular the last probably 5 or 6 weeks. And you're going to say to me, what's the trigger for that? I'm not 100% sure. I just think there's a realisation that responsibility does fall with players on the ground and off the ground, and we're prepared to listen as coaches. So that's been a major factor. We've played our recruitment last year. I know we've come in a bit of criticism re-recruitment, but the likelihood is we will blood another player this weekend. It was Friday, and that will give us 9 players from last year's draft, and that's inclusive of Thomas, Doherty, and Everett. But the rest of them, Sheehan, Wood, Johnson, Cripps, etc. So that's a massive plus as well for our club, and I think that the competitiveness against the top sides, we haven't worried where the side is. We've known in the last couple of weeks, last 3 or 4 weeks in fact, that finals were beyond us, and the teams we were playing had far more things to play for. They were all looking at jostling for positions either inside the 8 or just outside the 8 to get in the 8. So mentally they ran in the race with probably more at stake, and yet we were able to match that. And I think that is such and I know I'm talking probably mentally here, but that is such an important thing in my book, to be able to match a side off, like with Fremantle, Geelong and Gold Coast and North Melbourne the last month, and we've got 2 more that are in the 8, that they're playing for their final series, we're playing for the year out. But if we just accepted it like that, then it would be a wasted last 2 weeks. So we've got to keep developing our mental strength, and I think that's been one of the great bonuses.
You able to drop the name of the player that's going to debut?
No, because I haven't told him yet. And I haven't told him because we're stretched a bit with injuries, and until I get back and find out exactly what the medical staff are saying, then it'd be unfair.
What's your understanding of where Menzel and Thomas are at in terms of playing this week?
That's exactly what I don't know. I'm suspecting that Dale won't play, but I'm not 100% sure on the others. We know that Brock's not playing. Not that he played, he ran down in the race, but couldn't make it. So there is a factor of players being out, but as I said, it may not have given, say, Kieran Sheehan an opportunity, and he's grabbed his opportunity. And they're the little processes of a player coming into the side like that. What it does for the group, it gives us greater support for the back end, which means that when Dylan Buckley or Andreas Everett or Andrew Walker, any one of those 3 come back into the side, we can actually utilise them somewhere else. So it does strengthen the side.
Has that surprised you, the development? I mean, I know you would have wanted it, but in terms of the consistency of it, I guess, in particular, the group as a whole over the last 5 weeks.
I've been delighted with the mental growth. The physical growth is everyone's getting a bit ragged this end of the year. There's no question. The sides that got the greatest depth will get through to the finals and play a prominent role. Those that haven't got great depth of the absolute quality of play league football at finals level, then you get a bit ragged around the edges. But that's the physical component. The mental component is the most important thing as far as I'm concerned. And there's been a magnificent. There is a fantastic growth in our group in that area. It's got to be maintained, but what it does for me and hopefully I can relay that to the supporters. It gives us a chance over pre-season to go into next year. And you shouldn't be talking about 2015 when 2014 hasn't even been concluded, but we have to now. This is the start of our next year. So they're the little bonuses. The mental contribution of players is growing, so that's so important.
Has there been a trigger for that? Is there something you can put your finger on as to why that turned around?
Well, I'd be an absolute genius if I thought I could nail it. There's a want. There's been a want from the word go. There is a non-acceptance now of mediocrity, both in performance and in attitude and in culture. So what we're trying to establish, I feel that by trying to establish something, a lot of people were on the rim of that, looking in and thinking, well, what does it really mean? So there's been a process of the coaches, of the administrators, trying to say, well, this is what we want, and do you understand it? And I think the realisation is that we do now know there's a lot of players out there that understand it and are prepared to drive it. So what's the trigger? It may be just them themselves coming to that understanding.
How have Mitch and Jeff been in the last week, Nick?
Sorry?
How have Mitch and Jeff been in the last week, trying to sort of regain the respect that Andrew McKay's been?
How they've been?
Jeff played, obviously.
Well, that's a good question. You really have to ask them. I mean, as an observer looking in, we try to make sure that all our players feel as if they're part of it. Clearly, they've mucked up in that culture come discipline area, and I think they feel. I really do think now. I think this might be part of that growth area. That the players are forgiving, but they also now expect that players have got to join in with that. They can't just say, "Oh, look, we're sorry," and no action's taken. So, I guess I would say that they feel now, those two young blokes they feel that there's a die being set, and they've got to now join in with what the rest of the players are doing. So, it's not going to be easy. It's not an easy task to be out there then have to come back in. But players are very forgiving, of course players are, they're teammates. But I don't think they're going to lower their standard unless they want those two young men to come in and actually come into that standard and rise with it, not be outside it.
How close is Jeff Garlick, Nick, to a recall?
Oh, he's certainly in the mix this week.
One more question. Just one more broadly on the game, Mick. We've seen Brent Harvey rubbed out last night, probably in retaliation to getting frustrated with a tagger. Do you think the star players are getting enough protection at the moment from the umpires in terms of the attention they're getting from taggers?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's not easily answered because I think the umpires are acutely aware of rewarding the ball getter. There's three umpires that see the game probably differently, and we saw that with the free kick last week, Pate. But I think the intent of the umpires is to give the ball-getting player the opportunity to get to it. But, see, I was an ex-tagger. Now, I say this, that if we are going to just sum our game up by saying we need superstars that can go and get the football, with all due respects to them, first and foremost, I'm a great admirer of Brent Harvey. I think Boomer's one of the great people in football. I've had a very short association with him many years ago, and we've kept that relationship up for a number of years. I really think it's a credit that he's still playing football at his age at that level. However, there is a place for taggers. We're not all gifted like some of the superstars. There is a place for them, there is a role for them, and there are rules that shouldn't be any different for them than there are for other players. So if you infringe, you infringe. It shouldn't be just because you're a tagger that you should be ultra looked at to say, well, we've got to make sure that he doesn't infringe. That should happen all over the ground. Likewise, if the tagger goes against the football, he should be treated the same way as any superstar goes against the football. So I'm a little bit caught in saying that if we want to have the superstar play, then there's got to be a banning of taggers playing the game. Okay, so which I don't think that's creditable, I don't think it's possible, and I don't think the game caters for it. We have always had good half-back flankers tag their half-forward, good full-backs tag their full-back. In today's football, we have our full-forwards tagging the full-back so it doesn't run off. We just see more of the players around the ball are not going to, as an opposition coach, you're not going to allow someone who can get the ball 35 times, 40 times, without having some player put up resistance to him. How it's policed, I think the umpires are doing a pretty good job on it.
Just before we wrap up, Mick, do you want to tell everyone why you're here today?
I don't think it's going to get airplay, quite frankly, but I will. This is the Bridge project, which I've been part of since its inception. I'm the patron of it, and it's to get young kids a second chance in life, maybe a third and fourth time. We've just had a young boy here speak about his unfortunate mishap 8 years ago, where he drove a car under the influence and crashed it and killed his mate, spent time in jail, but more importantly, it wasn't so much the time in incarceration, it was more the mental anguish that he had for years later. So this organisation did everything it possibly could to get him out of that, get him a job. He's now a model citizen, young family, great job, inspiration to other young men. So that's why I'm here.
Thanks, Mick.